It's Tuesday, July 6th, and you're listening to the Beer Temple Insiders Roundtable.
Remember, this is what we wanted. Remember, this is what we said. To never be heard, seen from again. Remember, this is what we wanted. Remember, this is what we said. To never be heard, seen from again.
Me? You?
Yeah, you.
Me? Hello, and welcome to the Beer Temple Insiders Roundtable. I'm your host, Chris Quinn, along with my co-host,
Mike Shalau.
and this feels like an actual Insiders Roundtable for several reasons. This is our first Insiders Roundtable in the new format, Mike, so...
Yeah, excited to be here.
You've hosted it before, so no biggie
I have
for you.
to great acclaim.
But already...
Reviews saying this was the worst podcast I've ever listened to.
Right, that's true. But I was just looking at, because I've been trying to change the feed for the podcast and stuff like that, and I was looking at some reviews and stuff like that, and one review on iTunes, the topic was, or the subject was, Dust Brothers Radio Hour, and it was a 5-star review. So
It was a Zombie Dust Radio Hour.
yeah, Zombie Dust Radio Hour, or no, I think they called it Dust Brothers Radio Hour. is
Yeah,
what they said.
the people have spoken.
Yeah, so that's what it is then.
It was Zombie by
Yeah,
the Cranberries was the opening music.
but
Took me about 4 hours to cut it to the right length.
yeah, exactly.
I didn't go to school for music or any of that stuff,
But yeah, it feels
Figured it
a little bit more like the Insiders Roundtable. So this is going to be the
We're
first
back,
one
baby.
we've done. I've got my outline up. I've got this little stretchy thing for the mic, which I haven't had before, but it's nice. I
Yeah.
like that. And we've got producer Serge. We're here in Studio BT. And but anyway, I want to thank everybody for listening. Thanks for tuning in or downloading or doing however you listen. Once again, always very much appreciated. And of course, thanks to Lumpen Radio and its fearless leaders, Jamie Trecker. And I mean, recently though, Mr. Logan Bay has moved on to greener pastures. Isn't that right? No?
No, he's still the director of Lumpen Radio. I think your show just got canceled.
I think so. Sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry, Logan.
Yep.
That won't make Logan happy. He'll be busting my chops
Maybe
for that one.
maybe you'll be able to get back into the studio someday, Chris.
well, he listens to every episode, I'm sure. So
Yeah.
But for those of you who have not heard the Insiders Roundtable before, this is what the podcast used to be, this format every week. And essentially, it's bringing in, well, people whose opinions I respect and admire to talk about the things that are part of our everyday life. So it's kind of a topical beer show where we just get different opinions and get people who are knowledgeable about the topics but come at them from a variety of different ways. So it could be people who are making beer, people who are selling beer, people who are writing about beer, people who are drinking beer,
getting in your glass.
facilitating the beer getting into your glass. You remember better than me. But anyway, so that's what we're going to do. We're going to go around. And the other reason that we can finally have an Insiders Roundtable again, I think it's going to be something we're going to try to do every month or so, right,
Yeah.
Mike?
When there's
What do you mean?
news.
Yeah.
Do it every week.
We're doing episodes every week.
We have
with this
other
format
formats.
of
Yeah, so you know the last two episodes
You
that
have
you've...
a new format.
we have a
So you
lot
know
of
the
new
last,
formats.
the last
Wow.
two
Getting out
episodes that
Mike
you've
is a
listened
co-producer of the Insiders Roundtable now?
there.
Yeah.
Co-host.
Holy shit, when did that happen?
2 weeks
Yeah,
ago.
2 weeks.
Really
ago.
have not listened to the show
I
for
was
like
just
2
gonna
years.
say,
I have
yeah.
no
We're
clue.
having feed
I know.
issues.
Your
maybe.
show is still on the air at Lumpen Radio?
It's been on the
Yeah.
whole time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Never took a break.
That is great.
No,
Congratulations.
this is our third week in the new format. Yeah,
I
just called the Beer Temple Podcast, and
Oh,
once a month we're going to do an
Beer
Insiders
Temple
Roundtable.
podcast. So you guys are going like for straight news. You want to be like a kind of like source for news on the beer
No,
world,
yeah,
and
the
then,
opposite.
And then you do your podcast with roundtable opinion stuff. Is that
exactly. So, but what we got to go back and we have to go and do this the old-fashioned way. So the other reason we can have the show again is because Edmar has moved in upstairs. He now lives above the beer temple and can come in uninvited.
Yeah.
And the beer temple's now in Bridgeport.
That was the agreement, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, if the podcast goes on, I'm still upstairs. I
Gaming.
walk downstairs, not sure what's happening,
and
then just come in and just grab some beer and say some things and leave.
Yeah.
It was also confusing why you were asking for hovercraft parking when you don't have a hovercraft.
It's still at the Jewelers.
But that's
And
not
But
yours.
it's not your hovercraft.
I still need a parking spot for that.
Yeah.
You do?
You
Yeah,
do?
I
Or
do.
are you driving it for Kona?
I'm sometimes
You look at it.
I'm
You look
Ubering
at it.
him. I'm Ubering him around
it, got it.
with a hovercraft.
The
Right?
gig economy chauffeuring is
Yeah.
not
What
his
else?
favorite.
I got a room upstairs. I got the gig. I got multiple gigs actually nowadays with the
You?
There's like
this,
Uber
with this
XL,
incredible
Uber.
new technology. You can do so much with your phone.
You're going to have so many jobs that don't give you health insurance with your phone.
You don't need health insurance. There's like an app where it simulates health insurance.
That's right. It's
Yeah.
better. Put on the VR headset. You won't need health
I
insurance.
have that. I have that Ron almost every weekend.
But this is perfect because we're going to introduce our guests in order of seniority. That being how many times they've been on the show.
I don't know if I'm senior anymore. I think
You're-
Mike Shalal is, but you're no longer
He's
a
not a
guest.
guest.
No, I'm not a guest.
I'm
So that-
it.
What's up, Edmar?
I'm definitely probably the most senior guest in
Yeah.
age and appearance, number
Yeah.
of appearances.
Yeah. Is that screen not working for
I
you?
don't know what's going on.
We'll fix it. When I say we,
Just kind of
I'll ask
droops.
Serge.
It's kind of
Just- yeah.
floppy.
Maybe we'll put up there next time.
I think
It'll-
you gotta flip it
this-
around.
Yeah.
But hey, thank you for inviting me on. I have no idea that it was a new format. I've been upstairs for a couple months now since the pandemic
Just waiting.
ended, setting up my new rig, waiting for the giganet. I'm a little upset. Does anyone have Verizon Fios? How am I going to get super gig bandwidth here?
I don't know.
In this building.
I don't know.
AT&T sucks. Comcast is crap. What are you guys using here? Using satellite connection?
AT&T.
We've got
AT&T,
like
but we have
some
fiber.
coat
Yeah.
hangers.
Do you have fiber?
Yeah.
Can I please borrow some fiber upstairs?
Yeah.
Okay, great.
Well,
Thanks.
I'll throw a couple strands through the.
Don't throttle it, please.
Just
Okay,
push
I'll
them through
try
the
that.
hole in the floor.
I'll do.
Thank
Yeah, I'll
you.
do that.
Good to be here.
Yeah.
In all these ways.
You're in tie dye. You're wearing your community kitchen shirt. You're wearing your tie dye from head to toe.
You know, I just matched my tie dyes based on color palettes.
So I was going to ask,
See
did
this?
you buy those together,
This-
or are those separate that you just have so many that you can match? Because that's not a typical.
I didn't buy any of these.
That's like a cool gray.
These are just mine.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. But I have a lot of colors, yeah. I have
So you made those.
Like a Granimal
have
set for
all the colors.
psychedelia.
They're
Almost
yours.
like Raminals. It's more like you just look at the colors.
You get the vibe.
Choose them. Not wearing socks today. It's too hot for socks.
Okay.
But yeah. Yeah, you're part of this whole tie-dye revolution. You've got some hot Steak Industries tie-dye coming. Ice
That's
tie-dye.
my man.
Yeah. Ice tie-dye is the future of craft tie-dye.
We might have some Beer Temple tie dye made by Steak Industries
I know.
coming in tomorrow.
I saw them.
Artisanal.
If you don't,
Steak
you know
Industries
what?
tie-dyes.
I'll be upstairs. I already cut a hole through the ceiling to rip shit off from you. Mm-hmm. Just tell me where they're located, and I'll make sure I don't make any more holes in your floors. Mm-hmm. So just leave an XL out right here in studio.
Okay.
Right, BT.
Done. Done.
Does the shirt
Purples?
come first or the pants come first when you choose your outfit?
Yeah.
You know, I don't know.
Does the vibe come
No
first?
idea.
Yeah.
Usually, when I wear the pants, I usually wear a solid color to let those pants pop.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
But today it's just you're popping everywhere.
Today, I just feeling it's so hot. It's tropical. I feel like I could be walking in a Jimmy Buffett set for a show in Key Largo or Maui.
Montego.
I want to like blend in.
Key Largo, Montego.
I mean,
Baby.
Yeah.
which
Why don't we
reminds me,
go?
someone we know opened up a bar in the Florida Keys.
Really?
Yeah.
And we all
Who?
we all
I don't know.
Steve Miller,
the Joker guy,
The
the
musician?
brewer. The
I'm
brewer.
a Joker.
Oh, he did?
Thomas Smoker.
Yeah.
Steve
His,
Miller?
his
did?
brother.
His brother did.
works at a bar down there.
Works at a bar. AKA
Works
he
or owns?
opened a brewery.
I'm not entirely sure.
Steve
I know
Miller's
his
brother went to a bar in Key West.
I think I noticed on Facebook that someone went to a bar in Key West.
Yeah,
Steve,
exactly.
Did you hear about
Steve owns that.
You
brewery
encounter
down
anybody
there.
who went to a bar?
Hailstorm.
Hailstorm, yeah.
I think Steve operates Hailstorm now, so he's still here. I think his brother Brian moved down to Key West a while ago.
Steve, I know you're listening.
Yeah.
Will you please
Write us a
tag the
letter.
podcast, write a letter, explain what the hell's going down in Key Largo for
Get
us.
your typewriter out.
Let us
Tinley
know.
Park, Key West, they're all the same.
Yeah, very similar.
Yeah.
Tinley Park, Key Largo, Key
It's
West.
south of Madison
Two
Street.
words.
It's basically
Very
Key
similar
Largo.
climates and
Year round.
type of shoppers.
Tinley, Key Largo. Why don't we go? Okay.
Down to Tinley
Down to
Park.
the monster. Yeah. Yeah.
So
we
that's
shouldn't
how
have gone.
that's how I wear my tie dye. Thank you.
Appreciate it. All right.
Thank
Well,
you.
thanks for coming back
Thank
to the
you
show.
for asking.
Thank you. The veteran member of the panel, as always. Up next, we have the junior member of the panel this week, Mr. Mike Zoller.
Hey, thanks for having me on.
How are you?
The
What's
reboot.
up?
I'm honored to be
Yeah.
the first roundtable of the reboot. This is pretty cool.
That's true.
In
Yeah,
this new
that's
studio.
Yeah, well, this isn't the Forever Studio. People can't see, but it's
You
kind
say
of.
that, but
it might be.
There's lots of boxes which
Surge
are full
knows.
of beer.
A lot of stuff. A lot of boxes.
Don't worry about
A lot
it.
of Jungle
Don't
Boogie
worry
in those
about it.
boxes.
It better be.
Yeah, exactly. You're not going to cut them all open
I
and
feel
look.
like it's cushioned. The sound is cushioned by all these boxes.
I feel it's pretty
like
echoey,
good
but that's
baffling.
all right. That's
good
good.
baffling.
Yeah, that's good. It's better than if it were completely empty. But anyway, so why don't we want to get? Let's see where we're at
wanna
with
introduce
time.
him?
I
Mike
can't see
talk
the
about
time.
what's
All right.
Okay,
Thank you
yeah.
for listening to the show.
Thanks, Mike. What's
You
new
know
with
what?
you, Mike?
I'm getting a feel. I'm getting a feel for how this is going to go, and I think fail fast. Let's call it a night. And
That's the most successful Beer Temple Insiders
say best
Roundtable we've
episode.
had.
All right. See you guys later.
all right, yeah,
Ed sleep. Oh no, we were. Oh, he's gone.
yeah. Ed left. He's going to move his hovercraft. I think he needs to.
He's double
I
parked.
just got a
double
call
park.
for a pickup.
It's surge pricing.
I gotta go. I gotta take this ride.
Can't afford not to go, guys. Sorry.
Uber,
Yeah.
Uber of hovercraft. It's in high demand.
Yeah. Let's talk about beers that people have been drinking or beers that people have been excited about or anything like that. That has not changed. Anyone want to go first?
I'm not drinking a lot of hazies anymore. I've
Okay.
passed that, but I will say I had Neon Green Relish from Hop Butcher last week, and it's one of my favorites. That
rock.
was it Sabro Citra combination, which I know they all start to taste the same, but this one just stands out. And while I'm not on that hazy train anymore, when you see that one, that's the one I just go for. So that one,
That's
is
your
really good.
favorite?
I think so.
They're great every once in a while,
Right. Every once in a while, they taste good.
and you can taste the excitement in those. You can sense the Jude energy exuding from the Hot Butcher beers.
Here's a beer that I'm excited to try. I just saw it in the fridge. I think it's a few months old. It's a bit of a mystery. Yeah, that one. It is called, is it Alambique County?
Let's do this, man.
From Belo Horizonte and Chicago. It says it's from 2015
It looks like it's a collab between a Brazilian brewery and a
Yes.
Chicago brewery.
from Walls Brewing and Goose Island. And it looks like, it's a very
Packaging's beautiful.
fancy, yeah. And it says Walls Goose Island,
Yeah.
2015. Although it does say because it's good for 5 years, maybe. I have no idea. It's 11.5%, and I'm very interested to try it. It is definitely made with Goose Island because they've totally used the
Font.
Well, it
Yeah,
says
the
it also
font.
says Goose Island on
Yeah,
it.
it does. Yeah,
But the
totally.
font is like the Bourbon County style.
Yeah,
Right. It's a
there.
Bourbon County labeled, but it's all in Portuguese.
and it's like wrapped. It's corked and caged, and the wrap around it is made out of like shoelace material.
yeah.
It's like some of the nicest packaging I've ever seen on a beer, and I saw it in there and wanted to take it.
I'm guessing it's got something to do with their parent company being Brazilian and wanting to make beer with.
Maybe. Could be.
I
You
would
think?
guess so, yeah.
Okay.
But who knows? I don't know. I wasn't there for
Does
when
the
they made
Borg even have a nationality anymore?
it. No,
They've assimilated
no.
all.
It's
You
all,
can't.
Yeah.
If you're everything, how can
Maybe
you be
a-
one thing?
Maybe a pre-Borg.
Yeah,
but-
we're in a post-Borg
Post-Borg.
society.
Yeah.
No matter what that is, when you get this bottle
Post-Boral.
and you see this, you're gonna like the.
Feel.
It's like
You're
you
gonna
have
like
like
that
it's like
feel.
you have like a golf grip
It is.
underneath the
And we have to have the glasses off the table. That's a rule.
Oh, jeez.
Oh, there we go.
I mean,
Got a little bit of
Studio BT, you make
So
the
see-
rules, baby.
At least this table,
Right.
right?
Okay. So I'll get this ready. This is one I'm interested in. So who wants to go next? About beer they've had that they've enjoyed lately, or something that they're looking forward to, or
I haven't been drinking a lot of
it's
beer.
dark.
I'm not drinking a lot of beer lately. I'm really excited that
what have you been drinking?
I've been
Seltzers?
drinking a lot of flavored beverages. Yeah, I've been drinking a lot of teas and thank you.
CBD beverages.
No, not a lot of CBD beverages. I've just been sampling everything that's in a can that's non-alcoholic. But I've also tasted been drinking a lot of cocktails. I like all the Big Star's new cocktails they put in cans. Because I'm excited about the fact that in Illinois, due to the hard work of the Illinois Craft Brewers Guild and Daniela, they've managed to create a new law that allows craft distillers to self-distribute their own product. So now we'll be able to sell our own Mars cocktails.
All right.
So I'm doing a lot of research on cocktails
Okay.
and just different flavor profiles of non-beer oriented items.
Very exciting.
That's always been that's been your thing for a while.
But when I game, you know what I'm drinking.
J Bugs.
no
Jungle Boogie.
Boogie.
Yeah.
You're drinking Boogie.
And beer, Mars beer. Yeah.
Yeah.
The beer Mars beer. Not just generally beers from Mars.
Yeah, the beer, Mars beer.
Yeah.
This beer is weird, man.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
also
I-
it's
smells-
like 6 years old, and you can tell.
I bet it's in Abarino wood. Or had
For
anything
real?
in those. Yeah, it's like this really like flavorful, like spicy baking spice, kind of cinnamony
It's in here.
flavored
Cinnamon,
wood.
raisiny a little
Yeah.
bit.
Yeah,
It's
it's in
like
here.
really raisiny.
And it's a wood that barely ever makes it out of Brazil. There's a lot of wood that from Brazil that like due
Yeah.
to rainforest and deforestation things you can't like. Brazilian rosewood used to be like the best rosewood, but you can't harvest it anymore because they overharvested it for a while.
Okay.
I don't know.
Said
if
it was
that's-
11.5%.
11.5%.
Doesn't taste like
doesn't
it.
It says
No,
it's
not
a
at all.
dark,
Yeah.
a dark triple in
delicious.
barrels of
Weird.
traditional cachaça.
Cachaça.
Oh, cachaça barrels.
Yeah, cachaça barrels.
Now that's beautiful.
I didn't know they barrel aged cachaça.
That is so beautiful. Oh, yeah, most
wow, that's
cachaças
really
in
delicious.
barrels.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, all cachaças in barrels.
It's a really
actually.
delicious beer.
Yeah.
Very cocoa-y.
Yeah. What a delight. Thanks, Chris. What a good find.
Yeah, interesting.
First
Interesting
beer I've had
Yeah,
since
So,
mate.
yeah, really. I'm glad to get you back on board. This is the first non-gaming beer you've had in,
in
quite a
like
while.
2 years.
Yeah. All right. Well, how about you, Mike? Anything that you've had?
I've had the both on draft at the Hop Leaf, and then I bought a 4-pack here yesterday when I was here of that new De La Seine Perennial collab, which the name is something Reves, something like Saison de Reves.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yummy.
And it
No,
rocks.
Reeves.
Reeves,
Like Christopher Reeves.
like Superman.
Yeah, Superman, because it's got a picture of Superman on it.
Reeves.
And instead of Saison de Lee, or Saison de Lise, it's
L.I.
Saison de Reeves. I believe, is why they have
We're gonna
it
have
that
to
way.
we're gonna have to fact check that one.
I'm pretty sure
Is
that's...
it? You think it's actually named after Christopher Reeve? There's like an accent grav on it and stuff.
That makes it
Well, but they have a picture. That's what it's called, and then there's a picture of Superman on it, right?
That's true. It's a very strange choice, but yeah,
Yeah.
I mean,
Homage,
It
yeah.
very well could be true, but it's not.
I mean, I don't
it's not
know
hitting,
that, but
hitting
that's
the brain
wrong.
matrix in the right way. So Saison de Reeves, the Christopher Reeve beer.
Yeah,
It's
exactly.
good. Delicious.
Yeah, it's fantastic. It's like a spelt saison with some Hallertauer Blanc. It's really wonderful and great.
And it's a collab as well between Christopher Reeves and 2 other breweries.
Christopher Reeve and
Yeah.
His estate.
Yeah. Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
Oops.
Yeah.
anyway, yeah, it's been great. I'm
Yeah.
glad to contribute to the estate, I guess.
Right. So, see, here's where we would normally just take a break. I think we probably should just take a break.
I mean,
right now.
shouldn't-
Let's just
Should we just power through this? Let's
Mike
go.
Beer?
What? Oh, Mike, he already said neon green relish.
Oh, you did. That's right. You were
Yeah.
first. You were first.
And do you have any of that in stock, by the way?
Yeah.
I'm going to get a 4-pack during break.
Okay.
Nice.
Go for it. All right. And then we'll come back after that with more of the Beer Temple Insiders Roundtable. Welcome back to the Beer Temple Insiders Roundtable. I'm your host, Chris Quinn. I'm joined by my co-host, Mike Shalal, as well as our guests, Edmar and Mike Zoller. And we're getting into the topics I can tell it's time to get into the topics because Ed is now pulling up what the topics are. Some things have never changed. It feels comfortable. I feel like we're back now. Yeah. Some things have changed. Some things haven't. Some things haven't. So here's what we're going to talk about first.
Okay.
Ed, you'll be able to riff on this one.
Fine.
Now you're good. He's loaded up.
I don't
the
even know. I can't find your email.
Got it. Okay.
Google Doc, right?
Got it. Mm-hmm. So the funny thing is, it's always the same link too. So you can just
the same document.
It's okay.
Bookmark.
So Falling Rock went out of business. Ed, the famous craft beer bar in Denver, one of the first, certainly one of the most important, one of the most high profile. Because how many times have you gone into a beer bar and seen the bumper sticker, the big long bumper sticker that says "No crap on tap"? If you've ever seen that. No crap on tap. That was the motto of Falling Rock in Denver, and its owners is his name. Oh boy, now I'm the one. I'm going to say something, but it's going to be totally wrong. I wanted to say like Christopher Knight, but I think that might be totally
that doesn't
wrong.
sound right at all.
Okay, that's 100%
Could
wrong.
be right.
But anyway,
Chris Black.
Chris Black. There you go.
Knight,
The
dark,
Black Knight. The Dark Knight.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the hero.
He had been vocal in the past years about how he felt breweries were taking his lunch, and I think he's attributed. I think he did just the changing demographics of the neighborhood, and kind of the neighborhood changing around him as contributing to this. But one could say that 15 years ago, that the hot spot, they would have all been looking for a cool beer bar or something like that. And the fact that the hot spot isn't, that a legendary beer bar isn't doing well because the neighborhood's gotten to be too hot, is saying something. He was also renting, so the rent goes up, and that's rough as well. Thoughts, guys? Initial thoughts?
I mean,
other than bummer.
I think for sure you nailed it. I mean, when a neighborhood gentrifies like that over 25 years, that neighborhood wasn't like a hipster or I'm sorry, like a yuppie dot communism housing neighborhood like it is today. Denver was a different city 25 years ago. Everyone has been moving there. They're getting more population each year than, say, a city like Chicago. So if you are leasing or renting and you don't lock in that 25-year lease, your lease, if you get a 10 or 15, maybe you can go through it. You can plan better, but after that, you're at the mercy of the developers. So I'm sure that had something to do with it. And of course, the pandemic itself knocked out this bar, I would assume, is one of the biggest reasons they couldn't weather 16 months or whatever it was for Denver people.
I think it was, multiple storms at once. Yeah.
So like a tsunami of activity probably hurt it. And of course, the proliferation of breweries in Colorado and Denver especially probably led towards him losing some of his business to individual tap rooms and patios and breweries throughout the city. And, but a lot of it, I think, is probably due to the pandemic and due to the probably outrageous rent in that neighborhood.
Yeah, I think, well, yeah, sure. I'm sure the rent was just skyrocketing in that neighborhood. It is interesting that if you're right, and if I tend to agree, Ed, that, it's that the competition now is coming from breweries. And I do think that, if anything, the pandemic may have just accelerated the inevitable. I think it's taken, in some cases, things that would have happened in 5 years and made them happen in 1 year, or stuff that would have happened in, more than 5 years, and just like, it seems like almost instantly now it's happened. A lot of that being, app-based ordering and just all sorts of stuff. But it's, I do think that it definitely accelerated probably the decline of many a bar, not just Falling Rock. And, this is supposition. But
Falling Rock didn't have a to-go business, a packaged good business there either.
Right.
So.
I was going to say that's probably for the pandemic. All the breweries could do to go. But Falling Rock was just sitting there. There was nothing at Coors Field, nothing at the convention center for 16 months. They're out of luck.
How do you last that long without any business? Is a miracle. Is a miracle. Yeah. So I'm wondering how many other bars went under, how many restaurants went under in Denver, and if there's a percentage of businesses that went out due to the recent pandemic. Well, the continuing pandemic, I guess we should say.
Right.
Well, a little off topic from Falling Rock, but what I'm really worried about in Chicago is just corner bars that are just going to know there's going to be no fanfare. We're not going to read about it in the Eater that like this XYZ corner bar went away, but it's just going to totally change the like casual drinking culture of Chicago.
Absolutely.
What corner bar are you talking about?
Well, that's the thing. Like, I don't know any specifically, but like that the idea that like there are they call them dive bars or corner bars, but that aren't Falling Rocks, but are much less likely to survive than Falling Rocks for 16 months of not being allowed to have people inside.
In Chicago, bars like that stayed in business by staying open and allowing you to smoke inside as well. If there are any quality, old school, Chicago-style corner bar, they definitely figured out a way to stay open.
Yeah.
I mean, like Guthrie's closed, right? And then they reopened, or they're going to reopen under new ownership. Southport Lanes, I think they closed, and then did they reopen?
They haven't reopened yet.
Okay.
I mean,
I don't think.
The number one for me is, Mike, what's the number one?
Hooten Bar.
Yeah, Hooten Bar. That one was brutal.
That's another rent situation. The rents on that strip are insane. That's why all those places.
It's also not a true dive bar.
I didn't say a dive bar.
Yeah.
I'm just saying bars.
Well, and also in Chicago, any bar, any business owner or bar owner is going to just sell that license to whatever restaurant group or entrepreneur is going to open a thing. Like many people I know actually were able to swoop up properties that went under during the pandemic and able to open up multiple locations for their restaurants and bars because they got better deals on the lease because the pandemic crushed the entire rental market.
That's something that we had actually predicted on this show right when the pandemic was underway. I think you were on the show with us.
Yeah, I made that prediction, Chris.
I don't know if you did.
16 and a half months ago. I think it was March 7th or something, yeah.
Well, as someone who's looking for larger commercial space, that hasn't happened for a lot of larger commercial spaces. No. It has happened for restaurant and retail spaces for
1 to 3,000 square feet for sure.
Yeah.
Let's zoom out a little bit and talk more about is or isn't there any meaning to a iconic craft beer bar closing other than the microeconomics of its location and its situation? Do we think that there's a kind of was this an acceleration of something that we could see? Like I was saying before, is this an acceleration of something that would have happened in 5 years that now happened in 1 year, or was it just a strictly a victim of COVID? It's what do you guys think? And I don't. There's no right or wrong answer. I mean, just curious to get your guys' takes on it. I mean, what I'm trying to say is, should we be worried or not? Where is this? That's the overarching theme of all my topics is where are we going? What are these signs? How do we interpret them? How do we read these tea leaves?
I mean, it's not surprising. We've been talking about this on this show for years.
Since the show started.
Yeah, literally since the show started.
Whoa, look at that. That is crazy. Anyway. Wow. Now that is never mind. We made it worse. We made your mic worse. Anyway.
Well, that's like something we've been talking on the show for literally years since the show started, and about how the craft beer bar is no longer like a destination place as much as it used to be, and how that affects the business model and plans of people who assumed they would be the preeminent location to experience craft beer wherever they are.
I was talking to Pat Berger, and so.
I know.
Oh, what did Pat have to say?
Well, he was very optimistic. No, I'm kidding. No, but he was reading. He was mentioned. His Bar Kaiser Tiger was mentioned in an article about a hard-hitting article about. Hopefully Mike didn't write it. Maybe you did. About where do beer influencers drink beer? Did you?
It wasn't mine.
Okay. Good.
It wasn't mine either. I'm also a Mike, so I didn't write that. But it was all tap rooms, he said, except for his. His was the only non-place. And he said someone, and again, this is now secondhand, was saying if you want to get a true drinking experience, you got to go to the source. It's the only place I would ever drink craft beer at or something like that. Now that might have been this guy trying to get this guy or gal trying to get a sound bite, but it was. And one thing that breweries obviously do have is the ability to at least project the idea that you're completely curating the entire experience. from the moment you walk in the door to the thing that hits your lips, like we made this, we did this. It's an expression of who we are as producers. What are you laughing at? That's obviously true. Whether or not that much thought goes into all those places, it's obviously true to something.
State it again. What is obviously true? That they're curating the entire experience? I mean,
like that they can argue more so than a craft beer bar that we have made and curated this entire time you're having.
But
but you don't like the craft beer bar doesn't make the beer. So from the very central point that we're all like, if you're a craft beer bar, you're claiming this, the central reason you're coming here is to drink craft beer. And curating a list is one thing, but making the beers on the list is a deeper level of.
Yeah, but you can't use that word curating for the experience that most tap rooms of breweries are making.
I didn't say even most. I said that that's one thing that they can do.
Okay.
That no craft beer bar.
A lot of breweries aren't curating their experience. They just slap a
That's why I was.
I agree with that.
Yeah, there's an afterthought for the design of the space and how they present their beers.
I agree.
There's an afterthought with the glassware, the draft systems they use, etc. But some breweries do an
an amazing
exceptional job. Yeah. So I just want
Mars being one of them.
Oh yeah, here, fluff me now.
Of course. I don't want you to be mad at me anymore.
Here's $1.
But what I would say, Mike, is to this on the flip side of it is, you know, some breweries are definitely making beers for their own premise or on-premise situation, but many are off premise situations, and then these are the beers we make, so these are also going to be at our tap room. Yeah. So I don't know if they can say, I'm going to make beers that fit into this experience, and the whole experience is what it's all going to be about. Yeah. But I think there's many cases where, I would say most cases, that is not the case.
Well, why would someone say the only place I would go to drink beer is the source?
Yeah.
Like, because there's something
beyond
the quality of that just the beer being fresher there that is more immersive to someone who's like, I'm going to have beer, so I'm going to go to this place. The whole experience is being inside of this, like.
I mean, not knowing the rest of the places that this person said.
Yeah,
I would say that person is an idiot.
Yeah, but also
you can say that, but a lot of people think that. That's why you can't. We can't make an argument that like the tap room is destroying the craft beer bar without saying that there's something to the idea that being at the source and the curation of the entire experience.
Can you just also, based on numbers, just by the sheer volume of tap rooms that are open, you dilute the audience for craft beer. So there's that on its own.
No, I don't think that's a. What do you mean? What do you mean you dilute the audience? How is that possible?
Well, there's X amount of craft beer drinkers, and if an extra 100 or 200 locations open up for them to drink craft beer,
so you dilute at any particular source.
The audience
itself isn't.
I think that could hurt the craft beer bar.
It's diffuse. It's not diluted.
That could hurt the craft beer bar because now you want to hit all the tap rooms.
Yeah. Right.
So in a day where you might go to a brewery and a craft beer bar, now you go to 2 or 3 breweries. In Denver, just like Chicago, they have pockets of breweries. Right. So you can walk to 2 or 3. And that might be your drinking for the day, and now you're no longer going to the craft beer bar.
Right.
However, I would say that the experience I just had now with Junior beer, this Junior Phantasm Double IPA made with Sauvignon Blanc, grape juice, Citra, and Nelson Sauvignon hops. It's fantastic, right? Didn't even know they took over Motor Row, and I'm very sorry about that. Now I know I can get this beer here at Beer Temple. I'm buying it when I leave. And I can also go check them out and get their beer, or look for their beer on the shelves wherever I go, because I don't have time to go to every tap room. I depend on you, Chris, and places like this to go, this is the hot shit you want. This is the stuff that I like. Let's go for it. Are you writing down how many times I'm swearing?
What times?
He's got to go back and
so what time so he can take it out and then send it to Jamie.
Where is the button? but I'm just saying, though, that
it's so funny how that doesn't work at all.
You could make the argument that the value of a craft beer bar, etc. Right. Still has a lot of.
It's the variety.
It has a lot of value.
Oh no! And listen, personally, I love them. I enjoy them more than tap rooms for most of the time. To be perfectly honest with you, like I was at Hopleaf this weekend.
Yeah.
I'm here. This is the 3rd time I've been here this week. So
it's Tuesday.
Well, yeah, Sunday,
Monday, Tuesday.
So as a consumer, I actually probably enjoy the craft beer experience at a bar like this more than going to a tap room, because being steeped in it, but also being steeped in it completely, you kind of get a sense of who those breweries are relatively quickly nowadays. Like to the opposite end of that, like curation sword is that if you have a very, very strong thing you do and you make the same style of beer over and over again, you're really good at it. Like I personally as a consumer, I'm not that interested in doing the same thing 6 different ways.
Let me put this out there. I will say, without thinking it through too much, but I'm willing to defend it and then say I'm wrong. You prove me wrong. Outside of brewery-sponsored festivals at their location, I can think of one example. I would say almost all my best craft beer experiences have been at craft beer bars, not at tap rooms. And in fact, I've more likely been disappointed at tap room. Not disappointed, but just like I think they tend to be good, or, people holders, they get a lot for the, industrial vibe, bang for the buck for a lot of them. I think there are some exceptions, but I'd put some huge heavy hitters where I don't think the drinking experience is as good at a tap room as it is at a bar. And I'll go like the best breweries in the world. So Hill Farmstead is being of that place, but you're also standing up against a little rail on a porch or something like that, which
that's
is fine.
A pretty cool experience, man. I went up there in like September and it's beautiful. Like it is beautiful. That's also a unique experience, period. There's no craft beer bar on the top of a mountain or rolling hills.
So I would still say that it was not one of my best drinking experiences where, but that's just me.
That's all
I would say Cantillon as well. Cantillon is fine. I've been there several times. It's cool. I mean, the coolest thing is to get to see, maybe Jean is like working the register, selling somebody a T-shirt while you're there.
Cobwebs all over the place.
That's a brewery tour, though. You're not drinking beer there. But if you go to Motor Lambic, that's an amazing lambic drinking experience.
I think this is a straw man argument to say that the ambiance of these breweries and the drinking experience in the tap room, aesthetically or the way they look isn't
to my experience.
Sure, but I think that like saying that part of the reason they are cool is because like you're at Cantillon, you're at Hill Farmstead, and like that can't be discounted in like the conversation about like why the tap room is.
But those are
more
tourist
ascended.
destinations, right? Those are like, you're a craft beer drinker. You're going to seek that out. You're going to go to Cantillon. You're going to go to Hillstead. You're going to go to New Glarus and try that experience. You come to Chicago, we have a few of those, but not really anything like that experience. Like you don't go to like a New Glarus and drink out in their beer garden and hang out there. And then, you can go into the town and go to a dive bar and have New Glarus. We don't really have that in Chicago. We don't have a brewery that has that type of experience, I don't think.
That I would agree. Yeah.
I mean, but so give,
what other like breweries going into a brewery that looks like a spaceship and then walking through a beautiful hill farm and walking down to a tiny town to go to get something on draft at the crappy sports bar?
Yeah.
No, there aren't many spaceship experiences in Chicago.
Why is there not a Mars spaceship experience?
There will be.
I will also say, like,
on Mars.
But here's the other thing about being at
a
a place like Hill Farmstead is bucolic. The actual bar itself is a amazing piece of woodwork. The beer is awesome, and you get to have a wide variety of it. I think that's a very difficult one to argue against. But you're also there's a crowd of people there. You are they need to process you through.
You're pushed through.
They need to do all those things, and you don't have somebody coming up talking to you, wanting to spend that time with you or anything like that.
But Chris, no one ever wants to spend time or talk to you.
Right, true.
So I
wouldn't
maybe
say
that's how you feel about your experience.
And it's also about what I look for.
Right.
It's also what I look for.
I also wouldn't say that happens less often than. It's more the exception than the case that you have someone at a craft beer bar that's like, man, I would love to go over this whole list with you. Let me tell you. Tell me what you like. I'll pour through all the pages.
I don't know.
That's the ideal experience, but that is not the one that happens.
But
most
I've had
often.
that at my favorite bars in the world are Delilah's. That happens all the time with whiskey.
Well,
when
that's
I go
a
to
special
Delilah's.
place.
exactly.
Right.
But I'm putting it up against the most special tap rooms. I'll put it up against, what about Monk's? What about the Horse Brass? What about the Toronado in the San Francisco Toronado? What about Falling Rock? What about I don't know. I'm trying to think of like my favorite drinking
Crazy
experiences that I've
Dutch
had.
bars that have craft beer and
Right.
the old school stuff. What is that? What the heck's the name of that awesome
The
Hemorrhagic.
bar?
The old
Beer
round
Cabin
bars.
All the
has the same
Belgian-
thing.
The Wildeman?
Yeah, the
or-
Wildeman.
Yeah. The
Like that-
Wildeman is amazing.
that will never
Or no. I know what you're thinking about. The one in Ghent. The true. Oh my gosh.
Oh yeah, I've been there.
What's it
too.
called?
I don't remember.
With the old man and the old
I
woman.
had a couple of.
That
beers.
is one of the best experiences
In a bar.
in a bar
Anywhere.
in the world.
Yeah.
And it's I mean, talk about curation. I mean, that is them. So I think, I mean, give me a tap room that can compete with something like that. I'm not saying they don't exist. I'm just saying that experience of being soaked in there is, they're only beer bars. For me, my favorite places to drink are like, and it's because sitting at the bar talking to the person, and it's Horse Brass, Monk's, I mean, the Culminator, that's what it's called, the Culminator in Belgium. You know, places like that, Delilah's. It's amazing. I mean, I'm sure I could go to a distillery on Isla and it would be so bucolic, and it's where the thing was produced. And it is a special thing. But if I want to be just soaked, it's a different experience, I guess. It's
Yeah.
a different experience.
So then wouldn't that be to say that Falling Rock
Should have.
it would be the pandemic then, because they should have been able to, take the pandemic out of it. Are they doing okay? I also think too, they had 90 taps.
Right.
Is that too many taps? Is that just too much to take care
Probably
of?
even the culture
Right,
of the craft beer bar shifted quite a bit from what they were to what people expect now.
That's true.
And like education amongst consumers of knowing that like, well, there's 90 things on draft. Like most of those are probably not. Remember Hopcat? Like Hopcat expanded
Right.
here and they had like 68 something things on draft.
And they lasted like 2 years.
Yeah, and it's like people just know there's just the style of the experience that people want to have is not, I want to have a bazillion options anymore.
Right. Mm-hmm.
We have too many choices to make throughout the day and throughout your like normal life. You want to go somewhere where you're like, all right, I'd rather have what do you guys have, like 24, like 18
21.
right now? Yeah.
Oh,
that-
less, yeah.
Like, right. That's a good amount. You can understand that amount. So that it could just be that like for them it was a combination of tap room plus the just the experience people want at a craft beer
It
bar.
could also
changed.
be the fact that how many tap rooms are 20, 30, 40, 50 years old. And that if some of these places are around and that tap room is now 50 years old and just soaked in experience, it might become an amazing place. But when I go up to another place where the bar is made out of corrugated metal, you
Right.
know,
No,
it's like that is
that
not
sucks.
a curated experience for me at
Yeah, exactly. That's what we were talking about. We were both thinking the same thing.
And I agree
you
with
brought it
you
up.
on that completely.
And I don't even want to drink. I don't even want to go into a place like that.
I completely agree.
You got to a place and you get in there and it's just an afterthought.
oh,
It's
man.
like you don't care.
Yeah.
I don't really give a shit either. Later, I could give two
there have been
shits.
many times I've been with like that's how many shits
There
was
you
that
go.
one?
All right. Well, now another one. Okay.
There have been many times I've been like with family, and they're like, "Well, you want to go to this brewery?" I'm like, "Not really." Like,
Yeah.
not that, and I don't know the brewery, and I probably should have done more research and figured out what it was. But at this point in my life, and the amount of time I've spent understanding what I like about beer, like I don't want to go try.
And then
I assume I assume I know what that
Do
brewery
you
is
even
going
want
to
to
do.
go down this rabbit hole? Do you even want to go here now?
Yeah, let's go.
Let's
Let's
go.
go.
Because the reality is, like, the majority of the breweries that are out there are breweries I never want to go to.
Right.
I mean, the majority of the beer that's being made outside of, like, if you're in a smaller state, 3 or 4 good breweries in Vermont.
Right.
The rest probably suck or not worth your time.
Or at the
Am I being
no
an asshole?
But in the very charitable sense, they're
Yes, I am, because I keep swearing on this show.
It's okay.
But
in a very charitable
Am I
sense,
right?
they're at least a similar brewery to something you've already been to.
Okay, there you go.
And in a shareable way, you can say like you might be making very high quality beers, but you're probably very similar to something. Especially us from Chicago, you can go and try basically any brewery experience within a less than a day's drive. You can even get to Scratch within a day from here. So
but conversely,
I take it back. Ding, ding, ding. Okay. Going to Scratch is a wonderful
Scratch swear jar on the show.
And I think bringing up Scratch is really important because despite the fact that the majorities are breweries that I don't want to go to, they are still very important for local economies, for development of tourism, for placemaking. So I love that they exist. But you're right. When you're with your family, it's like, oh, there's a brewery down the road we should check out. You're like, no.
Well, and it's like I don't want to be someone who's like a beer snob, and but I'll go to that place and I will not have a fun time probably.
Yeah. Or you want to order beer. You're just going to get like some burgers.
You'll try their beers. I mean,
try the beers, but
and they're
I'm
fun
not
to try. I think the one good thing that they are that I like about breweries is you get to see their perspective. I don't know if it's a curation, but it's like, okay, what are these people about? I can now go through and see what they're doing.
I think that's cool. Like I think that's the coolest part.
That's the coolest.
As long if when the beer is good, the coolest part is the people's perspective, and you get to when you go to one that's actually really unique. But this is not different from a craft beer bar. But this thing is the same. When you go to a place that's really unique and has a point of view, you are so much more smitten with that place because it's like you're doing something that wasn't in the playbook, that didn't come out of the IKEA box of breweries.
Well, let me ask you though, Mike. So, Mike S. Going that way. So why then? Well, no, I'll ask you, Mike Zoller. Why then? What is it?
Mike Z.
Switch the S to a Z.
Yeah. So why is the Guinness Brewery pub not the coolest place to get a Guinness at St. James Gate, where it's invented?
I mean, isn't it though?
It is a fun place to go, but it's not the best.
No
it's fun, but you're going to do it because you're going to go on the tour.
Yeah.
You're going to have one at the top of there and see the views and get that Guinness poured.
I've done it.
Yeah.
It was a fun experience.
Fun, very fun.
Yeah.
I think it was actually on the show just after I got him back from it the last time. But then you go to, and I'm blanking on the name, and you ask someone there where the best pour of Guinness is. It's like asking where the best pizza is in Chicago. They're going to give you 8 places, but you're going to go check them out because you want to try the atmosphere, the ambiance there. And I'm going to find out where I went, but it was so cool to sit at the bar. You watch them pour 20 Guinnesses over. It takes a while, and that's just fun. Whereas the touristy part of the St. James Sky Bar is it's crowded. They're churning them out real fast. You're kind of it's not as fun as going to
but it's got a great view of the city.
Great view.
It's from the source.
For what we were talking about though, but going to the Guinness top of the world tap room
Mike both did.
Is no more elucidating of their perspective on the world than you not going there, because their branding is such that you know what their perspective is. They're successful because they've told you what their perspective is. And that's why they're so successful selling you packaged beer around the world. You know what that is. You're not gaining anything from going to that. It's a fun experience, but you're not learning anything about what Guinness believes as a company.
But I think you are. That tour is pretty cool. It's 5 stories, 6, whatever it is, and every story is every level is a different story.
Yeah.
And you learn more about the brewing process. The very first when you walk in there is they show you how they make it. And they tell you why Guinness is unique and that you can't get at a local bar in Dublin. But the beer pour is different there. So I think you can do both. It's kind of, there's 2 opportunities.
You should do both.
Right, exactly. Yeah. Do the touristy thing. It's very cool.
Right.
And then go get a local pour of Guinness.
And I would say whenever you are drinking a pint of Guinness, what you're imagining is what the small town Irish village or small Irish town where that stuff's being drank, and the people who drink it, and the Irish people, and those type of bars and those type of situations. I mean, that's what Guinness wants you to think too.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the best for me anyway is going into those little spaces and the experience that kind of opens up. It's just, again, it's different. I think there are different experiences, and I guess you can have preferences. I do think, though, that, and to say I am biased is, there's no way I can't be biased. I could have started a brewery if I wanted to, but I didn't want to. For a reason, and I'm not saying that I could have started a brewery.
You did just say that like that, though.
Okay. Well, I don't mean to.
I'm kidding.
No, but I could have pursued that direction. I could have learned went into home brewing, gotten a job at a brewery with this thing. Like, I want to create this experience, right? But I went down a different path because I wanted to create I valued something different. Right. I wasn't belittling the fact that what that other path would have been more difficult. And that's not what I'm trying to say, that I took a more difficult path. If anything, I don't think that's the case. Yeah. So, now I'm defending myself because you accused me. But anyway.
Hey, I wanted to bring up something that maybe relates to the closing of Falling Rock is you saw the closing of these Ballast Point tap rooms all over the country as well. And I thought it was interesting. A year and a half ago, there were surveys saying that 40% of the U.S. craft brewery industry was going to collapse. People were freaking out. The surveys from small breweries were saying 47, 50%, so they might be going out of business. And it didn't happen. Most breweries actually weathered the storm quite well, right?
Yeah.
And in comparison,
Very much so.
in comparison to these bars and restaurants, right?
Yeah.
So there's like a sense of resiliency in that kind of manufacturing aspect to it, controlling those costs more, your output, et cetera. Means of production, and also just the distribution of your product. So that also is something to take into consideration about, what's happening in these legendary places, I think.
When you look at Ballast Point too, Ballast Point didn't have that sense of community, that feeling in Chicago. It very much felt like this trying to force a square peg through a round hole. It's Ballast Point. This was before the sale. It was fun. They had a good rooftop, but it wasn't like a Chicago place.
I think it was a really good example of why people that buy these like larger brands and or the larger brands that buy craft brands don't really understand what people are connecting to.
Right.
They understand the economics of what that brewery is selling and what they're doing, but they don't understand what people are connected, why people are connected.
But even when you saw Lagunitas and Ballast Point first come into marketplace with their packaged goods, you met all the OG Lagunitas, OG Ballast Point
the
people.
Yusuf and Tony.
They were all here hustling this marketplace, hiring new people to work with them.
Totally.
Creating their own little families and footprints here. And those people became the OG Lagunitas kind of community as they opened up their new facilities. So I think there's a way to make those communities, but I think what happened is when Convict and Kings, this ridiculously named brewery, was managed to get a bunch of hedge fund or investors to purchase this failing Ballast Point brewery from Constellation, you just saw this giant
then
Goliath
again, not even
fall.
failing, just not living up to the $1 billion valuation.
Right.
Let's also be fair to Ballast Point. Let's be fair to them.
Monetarily, though, failing.
Sure, but not like, in a vacuum, if you just looked at if you didn't know that they were then sold for $1 billion and just watched what they were doing, would that be failing? Or
What do you mean watch what they were doing? Dig into that
they were
one.
growing.
No, they weren't. No, they weren't.
They weren't.
When they got sold, they weren't
I don't
growing.
think they were growing, yeah.
You don't sell for 1/10 of what you sold for a couple years ago if you're a growing company.
Okay.
Well, I think
I don't know the numbers other way of how they were.
That was
how
peak
they were
craft.
doing.
That was peak craft beer.
Yeah,
Also,
that was
right?
a specific
Sculpin
circumstance.
was the hottest beer in the world.
Yeah, and
They
that
wanted
was-
to buy Lagunitas, and they got left at the altar. All this stuff.
That was the Bitcoin of beer at
right.
that time.
It's the ETF.
But they tried. I mean, they had different facilities in California. So it's crazy though, because I heard that the brewery
Convict and Kings
moved
Convicts.
their
Kings and
brewing
Convicts.
system to brew it on in California, and they've closed facilities down in California. Like they've closed their brewing facilities and moved their old Convict and King system to brew
Which
on.
is a pretty small system.
And
I don't know if you've
it's just-
seen their
I know,
brewery.
I
It's
just-
like 6,000 square feet or something.
What is going on?
Yeah, it's a small place.
What is going on there?
I remember driving by it, doing deliveries, and being like, "Oh, there it is!" Like this, which is not what
Right.
would happen
My friend, she
at
was
the
there.
Ballast Point facility.
She was
you know?
there at Kings and Convict the day after they sold, and she went there. She goes, it was a Friday night or Saturday night, and she's like, just me and the bartender. There's a golf simulator in back for some reason. It's empty. Like this just bought Ballast Point.
Yeah,
pretty incredible.
It's all the brewery didn't really buy
No,
Ballast
it was
Point.
yeah.
Yeah, there was an investment team, and the guy had sold like a chain of hotels in
But the funny-
Australia or something.
The better
so-
story was to say Kings and Convict bought Ballast
right?
Point.
It's an awesome story.
that's a members
It's
of the
one of the
media
funniest
push.
stories.
It is one of the crazy stories in beer for craft beer.
It's
for
like
sure.
the simulator broke. Someone like hit autoplay for too long, and we're like, oh no, that wasn't supposed to happen.
Yeah. I don't know. I just thought that was interesting about Ballast
So
Point.
it looks
Yeah.
like it definitely took a nosedive. So it was going up
Yeah, dude.
as it was being bought, and then they filled the pipes. It was heavy pipe fill. It looks like 430,000 barrels, and then at the time of the announcement,
200.
early estimates were in the low 200s.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Incredible. Those guys, their timing on that and then their craft cocktail brand are just,
Which they kept.
which is,
Then
no,
And
I
sold
thought
again.
they sold it.
That,
Yeah.
they kept it as part of that deal, and then they sold it too.
Yeah, they're brilliant.
They were
And
very
they started
clever.
off,
Timing,
they
baby.
started off with a home brewing shop.
Home brewing shop. Yep. So here's one thing that I'm interested in. If any of you guys out there, tell us why you prefer tap rooms over bars, or why you like both, or what moods you're in, or what. I'd be very interested to hear what you guys have to say. If you want to shoot us a letter or an email, aka an electronic letter, you could send it to insiders@craftbeertemple.com, or you can email it to Ed Marszewski, upstairs apartment at the Beer Temple, 31.
Attention, upstairs apartment, Ed Marszewski.
Yes, 3173 North Elston Avenue, ELSTON Avenue, Chicago 60618, and you can put it to the attention of Edmar in the upstairs apartment.
Yeah, thank you.
That way, it'll get lost that way,
Just like the old days.
just like the old days. It'll somehow get
I'm
lost.
not going to lose the mail at this place, Chris.
All right,
All right?
all right.
I'm not going to. I give you the bills all the time when I get them, and I
will
bring them
say-
down, and I leave
He's
them
gonna-
on the goddamn counter.
He's gonna give them to Jamie for some reason.
I will say I have yet to get a handwritten letter since you've moved upstairs. Mm-hmm. So,
Yeah, that's why.
Anyway, why don't we take another little break and then come back with more of the Insiders Roundtable.
Welcome back to the Beer Temple Insiders Roundtable. I'm your co-host, Mike Shalau. I'm here with my other co-hosts, Chris Quinn, Mike Zoller, and Ed Marszewski. Welcome back, and we're going to jump into our next topic here, which is...
First, I'm going to interrupt you because Mike brought a friend's bottle of 2017 Dark Lord, and it tastes amazing.
Yeah, it tastes
incredible.
tastes pretty good.
so for those of you guys who haven't heard of Dark Lord out there, get yourself some 2017
Yeah,
Dark Lord.
this is it right here.
You can get it at your local beer shop, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Go to Beer Temple, ask them if they have any Dark Lord in the back, tell them Edmar sent you. Say he's got it upstairs.
I got some upstairs in my cave.
upstairs.
I moved the cave behind the stairway upstairs, and I've got 3 or 4 bottles left. Just ask Chris
Next to the
pull
house.
the string, which rings the bell in my apartment.
Yeah, it's next to the hot water heater on the 3rd floor.
You're
where you're cellaring all
keep
your stuff.
cellaring it by the hot water heater,
That's right.
It's like a butler pull.
Isn't there a YouTube video about that?
The perfect cellar.
Yeah.
You need it at like 85 plus all year round.
Yeah.
Yeah, speed aging.
Is it 85 or 84?
Ooh, well, that depends on what strain
Up for
of
debate.
cellar you want.
Yeah. Well, we'll see. I'm at 84.
All right,
So we'll
well,
see what this
yeah.
tastes
We'll
like
see.
in a couple
Ruined.
weeks.
We'll see.
$29.99.
That's a pretty good deal,
That's
actually.
That's a steal.
You get on the Razzles or whatever the kids are doing these days.
So what is the next topic, guys?
So we're going to talk about how GoPuff and Uber and all these other places are creating an insane disruption in the alcohol delivery space.
how so? How?
Mostly we're going to start this conversation by talking about how GoPuff has bought Bevmo, which is a huge liquor retailer in California and throughout a lot of the country, and they're about to buy Liquor Barn. So they've purchased literally
How many
thousands of liquor licenses.
With just .com
with
money?
those two.
Yeah.
So next time you guys are starting your hookah supply delivery company, remember one day you too can buy Bevmo. But like
Seriously?
seriously,
GoPuff was a hookah supply company selling
GoPuff, yeah,
selling
tobacco and hookah
bongs and like pipes and glass pipes.
yeah.
and shit
But they
like
brought them to you. It was like the Uber, but for hookah
They
supplies.
delivered weed paraphernalia to homes.
I'm not saying what it was.
And then
weed
they
paraphernalia,
did
or
like
tobacco
snacks and munchies. And
Right.
that was just a
well. Then they're
coincidence.
like, you know what else? What else
Snacks,
people want?
munchies.
And yeah, so
And then craft beer came into the picture.
or alcohol in general.
Yeah.
So all alcohol.
Yeah, I mean the Bevmo sells like whole
This
spectrum.
is incredible.
Yeah, I mean it's wild, and it's a fundamental change in how people are going to go about purchasing alcohol, which is interesting, right? Because
Because in like states like Illinois or in Chicago, you can no longer purchase alcohol after midnight and bring it home. Did you know that?
Yes.
Correct.
Yeah. So it becomes more convenient to order at 11:59 to pick up your order and have it delivered to your home for your after party.
sure,
True.
or
Interesting.
you just don't have to go to the store anymore.
Yeah, which
Well,
people
once you're
have
used to doing it
learned-
at 11:59, then you'll do it at 8:59.
Yeah, at any time. People
Anytime 59.
People have learned not to go to their store.
And I
Not
don't
to
know if
go
you guys
outside
are-
their home.
paying
Never
attention, but-
leave their home.
Yeah.
Friend of the show, Doug Valecki, is in California right now, and on his Instagram stories, he went to a Bevmo, and outside of the Bevmo, there's this big placard that's like, "Just get it on the app. We'll deliver it to you with GoPuff."
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
But are you ready to pay all those additional fees?
No
At
one
a certain point,
cares.
you stop realizing you're
Yeah.
paying them, right? They're just in there.
No one cares.
I guess if you really need it, but I did some research ahead of this because I was like, what is the difference?
Someone
So
would think,
I know, I was like, I have to.
Yeah.
12 pack of Summer Shandy. I just did that as a comparison. You can walk into a Binny's and get it for $13.99. How much do you think it costs on GoPuff, all in?
$21.87.
I was going to say, how much is it at Binny's?
$13.99. 12 pack.
$16.99. And I'm only saying that because you're saying it like it's going to be higher. Otherwise, I probably would have guessed $1.50 more.
Well, you think like that it would be $1.50 more, including like the
I'm going to
delivery
say
fee?
$24.
All in
Yeah.
with their fees. You put a little tip on there, $30.
Whoa.
Wow.
It's $20 for the 12 pack, $2 for the alcohol charge, $2 tip, $2 delivery fee, and tax.
So there you go. I mean, that just shows how they've gamified, or they've shown our lizard brains will be lazy. If you're lazy, you can just be like, it's not real money.
Right.
They've also gotten us away by just having it push. They've gotten us away from realizing we're
Right.
spending money. You're not handing cash over
Well,
anymore.
It's different than Uber though, right? Where you see all that stuff broken down. You don't just get to the end. It doesn't just say all in. It's going to be $31.
It breaks it down.
Right. You
Yeah.
see all that. Where like Uber, you don't even think about it because you don't
Right.
look at it until you sober up the next day and you're like, I tipped 200%. That's crazy.
In a city like
6
Chicago,
stars.
though, how far are you really from a place that sells beer?
Is that what it's about though?
I don't know. Like, I mean,
I-
I've never used GoPuff, and I have no desire to because I live by a Walgreens. I live by a small grocery store. If I need to get something, I can quickly walk out there.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'll walk 2 minutes.
Very,
But how quickly will it go to people just being like, well, I just don't want to go and I don't want to think about it?
Fair.
Like people get their groceries delivered. No one in like getting their groceries delivered lives that far
Now,
from
when
a
that
grocery
happens,
store.
I mean, it is potentially, well, if it's GoPuff who is doing the strategy of buying the big boys of retail, that's one way. Now, other places are contracting out the little guys, I think, to be there, like little drop spots all over the city. You know, like
That's how GoPuff operates in Chicago. I think is that
Okay.
they don't own a bunch of Binnies right now. Mm-hmm. It's just in California and
That's
wherever liquor
really
barns
incredible
are.
because really, as we emerge from like this
That seems to be their
lockdown,
strategy.
right? We don't even have a full kind of return to normal, right? We won't have a return to pre-pandemic sales in places like retail or tap rooms at all because of the GoPuffs of the world, right? Because of this delivery service.
Well, that's what they're betting on, right?
And I think
clearly it costs money to buy
they'll
these.
probably buy Binnies. I mean, GoPuff will probably buy
look,
Binnies.
And look at what Foxtrot's doing. They've mastered. They were, kicking some butt, doing pretty well prior to the pandemic, and the pandemic just exploded that company.
Yep.
And they just got a huge round of funding. I think, I don't even know, $60 million.
60 or something like that.
And they're expanding in more cities. I mean, it's really phenomenal that they've managed to curate, right,
Well,
products for a certain segment of the population.
They're interesting because my business partner is their alcohol buyer.
Yeah.
And so we talk about what's their strategy and stuff, and they whereas GoPuff is just we'll sell space on
the app.
the app.
That's what I was just gonna get to.
And it's all algorithm will drive what goes to the top. It's Foxtrot seems to be much more about actually curating those with human
Yeah.
input.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Because once you just put the same everything you can get everywhere on the algorithm, it's an echo chamber, right? And it's just like what people buy is what they see, and what they see is what they buy, and what they buy is what they see, and what they see is what they buy. No one's like browsing those things too deeply.
Yeah.
You're like, I'm looking for this. So
No, I I think that places like Foxtrot are the niche of this particular kind of like segment of like online sales and delivery, right?
Yeah.
But they also have a really well designed like storefront, like I call it the hipster 7-Elevens, right? And that's why GoPuff probably sees that kind of like storefront presence as another part of their strategy, because they have their warehouse and they have the experience of just shopping retail.
Right.
If you're old school or you're like a meth head like myself who needs to just pick up a 40. And I don't want to do it online.
I thought you said math head, and I'm like, I didn't know you were that into the numbers.
I am a math head. I'm not, though.
Well, I think it's also interesting because, like, why you would buy things like you would buy all those liquor licenses, or you would buy, because liquor law, or you would buy Bevmo, or you would buy liquor bars. Liquor law is so arcane and specific to each state.
Yeah, how did they manage that crazy process? That must have been insane.
I certainly don't know the ins and outs of their deal with that, but you would see why. Amazon delivers everything else, but they really don't deliver alcohol very
Yes, they do. With
effectively.
Prime, they do now.
With Prime, yeah.
I said very effectively,
Okay.
right? So they're like a laggard in that space, which is very atypical for them, right? If you can get something delivered, they're almost always killing it.
Yeah, and of course now...
And they have all those Whole Foods.
But now breweries can't deliver.
Right.
They took away our ability to do that, so they just gave it to the
GoPuffs. They took it out of the bill that passed the same thing that made it legal to self-distribute your
cocktails.
Now here's an idea. Here's an idea with Amazon. Amazon is totally closed loop, where GoPuff does use outside vendors where Amazon doesn't. So it could be also a liability thing as well, where I think Drizzly and a lot of those people are just like, yeah, you're still liable for your sale. So I believe, and this is when we should probably have someone like Ashley on to talk about, or someone like, anyway.
A lawyer.
Yes, a lawyer. But I believe so with like Drizzly, it's if Drizzly picks up from local corner store because they get an order, pick it up, deliver it, and then hand it to that person. That person is a 16-year-old kid, and then it's underage. I don't think Drizzly is accountable for that.
Right,
I think
third party is.
I think the store that took the. I mean, how the heck is that supposed to work? I don't know. But that could be why Amazon isn't messing with it, because they don't trust their drivers to card everybody and not get fined.
I think it could be that. It also is an economy of scale problem, where in Illinois, if you have multiple locations, you still can't technically do a group buy and then distribute them from a central hub.
Yeah.
So you could have one big warehouse, but that's ineffective for delivering to people, right? Mm-hmm. So you have to have a bunch of satellite locations, and they all have to have their own liquor licenses. So instead of them setting up all their own little liquor, like getting new liquor licenses at spots throughout the city or throughout California, there's like, screw it, we're just going to buy Bevmo and use those as all of our shipping locations.
I want to know like what GoPuff was, how they got that funding for it, or if there was investors for it. Like, who are they, man?
They started out in Pennsylvania, I believe, but or somewhere on the East Coast.
I have no idea.
And they're I don't know. So, but here's the thing: we're talking about Foxtrot versus GoPuff versus Drizzly versus all
Amazon,
those. Is an idea that I've been kind of thinking about. Is I don't think it's necessarily good for the Is-Was and the Mars of the world, because I think it is going to be one, algorithm driven, and two, I'm sure you can buy preferred spaces. And
that's what those companies, that's their main revenue streams.
Right. So
they make more money doing that than actually selling you alcohol.
Right. And if I was, I think I mentioned it on the show a while back, was if I was in Instacart and if I was Heineken, let's say, and I own Lagunitas and stuff like that, I wouldn't even want you to get onto the alcohol page. I'd want you to know when people buy this, they then start buying beer, and as soon as that's in there, be like, people also buy this, so you don't even get to the alcohol page.
You can't do that in physical retail locations,
right?
For alcohol, you can do it for chips and cereal and all that stuff, but you can't do it for alcohol.
You can do it a little
legally.
bit.
I mean, you can. You're not you're not supposed to be able to do that. And on digital space, I don't know what the law is for that.
But there's always wine by the cheese section in the nice cheese section.
Sure.
Like you could do that. Like people who buy this also buy that. Like you could do that.
I'm talking about you cannot you can't pay Mariano's more money to put your beer at eye level.
Yeah, but couldn't
That's
it be
not
a sponsored post type
People
deal?
do things that are quasi legal, but if they were to be looked into, they would get in trouble for it. Whereas in the digital space, I think you can just say,
that's what I was saying.
Here's 10 grand. We're gonna buy this as if it was advertising in the classified section.
Yep.
Which is like, and that's one of those things like when craft breweries like complain about distributors or the 3-tier system or all these laws about like how restrictive it is. Those help small breweries more often than they hurt them, to be really honest. Because if you had to think about like a small cereal company, like you're not gonna get in front of anyone and know, like, because Post and General Mills is taking up all that space.
Yeah.
But the flip side of that is if you look at small cereal companies now, what they're doing is direct to consumer shipping across state lines, and there's no regulation on that. So in Illinois, we can't ship beer we can't deliver beer direct to consumer as a producer. Yeah. We can't ship beer direct to consumer. That's state to state. But in Illinois, you can't do it. So the things that were helping us.
But what would the little cereal place, would they trade their direct to consumer for a spot on the shelf at Jewel? Maybe they would.
Probably, but you also capture more margin when you do it direct to consumer.
Right. So it's like fast nickels versus slow dimes. You know, it's like what would they prefer? Who knows? But it's interesting, and I do think that this new space is going to favor the big guys with a lot of money 100%. And people who can, you know, have analysts for the algorithms and figure out what the Drizzly algorithm likes and
on the internet
like
there's one winner, right? So it's, even though there's like a few right now, one's gonna win eventually. Like there's only one Amazon. There are a lot of places that tried to compete with selling stuff online like that. There's only one Netflix really. I guess there's Hulu and things like that, but they're not nearly as subscribed to as Netflix. And I mean, it's going to be terrible. There's only going to be one outlet to buy all your alcohol from.
It's a digital.
Not if you walk down the street to your local corner store like Mike does.
I can't imagine buying.
Not like Mike S.
I can't imagine buying beer on that. Like
I've been here 3 times this week.
Bud Light.
That's old. That's old stuff. What have you done for me lately?
Yeah.
No.
You would actually prefer an app that has beer that's not on the GoPuff site, I bet.
Right. I mean, like, here's the thing.
Like a Tavour.
If you go to GoPuff, if you go to GoPuff and you go to their beer, you're going to see Lagunitas, you're going to see Goose Island, the Macros, and then I think Bell's Two Hearted was on there.
Right.
And that's it.
Which, to be perfectly honest, the way that most people are probably encountering their craft beer, that's not that dissimilar. Like, most people that even look at craft beer are going to seeing it at the grocery store.
Grocery store, yeah.
Where that's a lot. It's not going to look that different for the majority of people. But what it is going to do is like it's going to mess up. It's going to be the opposite effect that Amazon had, where they had the long tail effect, right? Where you could make money being very specifically targeted to a very small audience. But that's the opposite of what could probably happen now.
But at a grocery store, I can walk the beer aisle real quickly in 2 minutes and see everything. Instead, there's 45 pages of beer on GoPuff.
Yes.
If you're on page 44, you're never going to be seen because I'm not clicking 44 pages.
But there's only, in that analogy, there's only 2 pages of the grocery store.
True.
So,
but you can get a lot of beer. If you go to like the Mariano's or like that, there's a lot of beer you can see in 2 minutes. But
I think, you can quickly scan 44 pages worth of beer. Or that section, stuff like that, where, I mean, would somebody like a Half Acre have been able to break through? I mean, getting into Jewels and stuff like that for Half Acre was a big deal for them, kind of, you know, getting to where they were, certainly for Rev. I mean, would they have been able to do that?
Revolution Smart on GoPuff, they have their own line on the homepage of beer, is all Revolution. And so clearly they invested there because if you click beer, you see your first few and then you scroll down, there's like categories and one of them is all Revolution. It's smart.
Good work, Revolution. Good job, Doug.
Right, that's right. But they also have the capital to do that. Would a young nascent Rev, let's say it's On Tour Brewing, let's say it's somebody like that.
We're already in the place where trying to get to even half of what Rev makes is a incredibly foolish errand.
Right.
So. Maybe not. Maybe it's not possible that On Tour or someone like that would have the capital to spend on that. But also, like, to even get to the point where you make the amount of beer where, I don't know.
I mean, but there are breweries who still do it. I mean, there are ones who have kind of organically, it seems, grown pretty large into regional. Not many, but
There's like one that opened in the last like 8 years. That
there's Rheingeist. So
yeah, right.
Right.
Well, even maybe in Chicago there's Maplewood, but like
right, yeah, Maplewood.
even though that like the last like 10 years, that's one that's grown to be more than 20,000 barrels.
Sure. I mean, I'm not saying. Believe me, I'm not saying that it's become easier over time. I'm saying I don't think it's getting even easier as a result. I mean, I think it's going to be, if anything, harder. It's going to be harder.
Right.
Yeah, and I think these apps are not a great equalizer. I think they're a stratifier.
The internet's become the opposite of what the internet was like, supposedly.
Well, I mean, it's there. If you're going to spend, how many things can you spend the time to buy direct? If you buy your cereal direct, are you going to buy your furniture direct? Are you going to buy your clothes direct? Are you going to buy every single thing direct? And if you are, you're going to spend all that time researching that stuff?
Most people that do that probably just do more of a subscription, but direct, right? So you don't think about it, but like, oh, this month I'm getting my box of beer, but you only get that from one place. Like it's like.
Still a lot of work.
Groceries from
maybe Foxtrot is the way to go, where you have to trust in a curator of a whole swath of things, and then that's where I go for my stuff. Because how many specialty things can you really be into? There's going to be the guy who is the expert, the best at cereal, and if it's not even the producer, I know all the best cereal producers, but you got to be way into cereal to go to that shop. And then there's Foxtrot, who has a tenth of what that guy has, but he also has, they also have all sorts of other things as well. So I think there's going to have to be curation at multiple levels, because there's just people who don't care enough to research all that sort of stuff. And then as it goes further down the line, you're going to get the people who are just going to go to GoPuff, and whatever comes up on top or Instacart or whatever, and they get it. But those people might care a lot about, where they buy their car parts or something. I don't know, something completely different. You know?
Totally.
So
I'd also be concerned. I like to check the dates on my beer. And if I place an order for an IPA on GoPuff,
right,
the person buying it is not checking those dates. Maybe that retailer has something in the back when they see a GoPuff sale. They say, hey, take this one. Once it gets to me, what are you going to do about it?
Well, this is part of the thing.
I hadn't even thought about that.
It's probably one of those things that no one really saw coming when the idea was like, let's get to 20% by 2020. Like, craft beer is going to do it. It's like all this type of stuff, like the Minuteman army of a bunch of these little rebels running around trying to do something in a vaguely organized way is not set up to adapt to these things. It seems like it should be, right? Maybe individually they can adapt faster, but
that's a good point.
It's not.
Very good point.
Yeah,
and
they don't act in a unified hive manner like the board.
Well, it's like almost antithetical to what we feel like we are, is to be like, no, we have to all band together and do the same thing. It's like, well, no, I need to do mine a little bit differently. That's my competitive advantage, is that I'm a little different than you.
Yeah.
I mean, even look at us. I mean, look at how the small breweries and the specialty retailers of that stuff at the most minute level are now starting to feel some friction. I mean, if anyone should be like lockstep joined together you would think it would be those people, but even at that level, you can't do it. So you can't do it even probably within breweries, let alone as soon as you step out of it. It's hard to do.
I feel like that's ebbed back a little bit. Do you think that people like yourself and Pat Berger and the Michael Ropers of the world that think that tap rooms and small breweries.
Now you're only putting it on one side. I mean, you're only putting it on one side. Yeah.
So then, do you think breweries see you adversarially more than a couple of years ago?
I said we couldn't. I would say it's more. I didn't say it was an adversarial thing, but I would say, if anything, I would say that COVID and people's tap rooms being shut down definitely made off-premise, gave put some shine back on that. But I don't think that's going to last. I think tap rooms are going to open up again, and sales are going to be going, and it'll be back to how it was. Personally,
I see it as those places are coming more together, but that could be
Which places?
idealistic.
Which places?
I mean, the third tier and the first tier. Like the producers and the sellers. You don't think that's the case?
More so?
Yeah.
I would say yes. I think
think
without the cooperation and the help of the retailers this past year and a half, 2 years, the brewery would
that's what exactly what I'm saying.
Yeah, and I think every brewery could say that.
But outside of that, I don't. I think it's because of COVID.
So you think that's a very cynical view, I think. You think it's strictly based on because breweries needed retailers during COVID, they're going to immediately forget about retailers and how important it was?
No, hold on. I think it's foolish to say that everyone's tap room being closed and everyone being like, oh, crap, I have to take everything in a keg and move all that stuff out of a can now. Where am I going to move these cans? Did not play a role. I mean,
I'm not saying it didn't
obviously
played a role, but I think what I thought you were saying is that that's going to go away immediately upon tap rooms being popular again.
Not immediately. Not immediately.
Maybe I misunderstood what you were saying.
I think it's going to, but I think it'll go back to where it was because the natural flow of things is just, it is going there. Bring people to me. Bring people to my experience. I make more margin that way. I don't have to worry about the 3 tiers. I don't have to worry about all this other stuff. Just bring them here.
Yeah, that's smart business.
Okay, well then fine. But then what's your point? I mean, the point is is going to go back that way. I don't think it's gotten better.
I don't think so, Chris.
Do you think it's going to stay like this?
No, it's not going to stay the way it is, but I think it's going to, people are going to be more aware of how necessary it is to have a more robust business model than just we need to drive everyone to our tap room. The smart ones will at least.
You need more independent retailers. You want to rely less on chains. You want to support the small guys as much as you can. You want to work with the beer temples as much as you can.
I don't know if that's true.
I think a lot of breweries,
I think the pandemic is kind of a once in a long. I sure hope so. A once in a long time thing, and aside from society closing down,
I don't really think any brewery that has a tap room and does manufacturing really relies on their tap room sales at all. I mean, it's important to them. It's more about getting distribution and retailers to sell that beer. It's super important. I mean, whatever. Just open a bar.
Right. I think any brewery that's open to be anything more than a tap room that happens to sell some beer in package is obviously going to try to have a better relationship with the end supplier. Maybe I'm misunderstanding what you're saying. Right. But I think that
he's saying that to me, he thinks it's going to go back to the way it was pre-pandemic,
and I'm
where
saying I don't
there
think
was this kind of competition. There was this fear from the retailers that the tap rooms were trying to take away their customers to go directly to the tap room, which is what we brought up earlier.
Not trying to. I don't want to put it that way.
Well,
I don't want it. I'm going because that's adversarial. That's trying to take it away. I think it's more of it's good business, and the good business doesn't necessarily align with.
It does both. Good business, best business practices do both, and and understand how to do it well.
Agreed.
Like, I don't think anyone's worried about Half Acres stealing my brew's business because they have a tap room, because they're smart and they know how to actually be in the market and be respectful, and they know where their bread's buttered, and it's not in their tap rooms. Now there are a lot of smaller breweries.
They just got rid of a tap room.
I don't know, man.
Right? They just got rid of a tap room.
All their hype releases now are tap room only and have been for years, and that has not changed.
But you're in a small portion of the retailers where that's important for them.
Well,
but they're on another end of the spectrum.
About that. My whole thing was about the small retailers. That's what I'm talking about. The specialty retailers. The specialty retailers. Maybe that is just something that is going to morph to. It is, first of all, it's not like it's not sour grapes that like, man, back in the good old days, I got all the rare stuff. It's not what I'm not sour about that. That's just how things change, and I agree with you. It's good business. It makes sense for them. But to say that, I mean, Rev does it the best locally. I would say Rev does it the best. When they have stuff, there are very few things that do not make it out into distribution at all in some way that gets packaged. I would not put Half Acre on that list. I think they're moving more in the other direction where, they are putting more stuff that are tap room exclusives, personally. So...
just what I think.
And that does not mean that I'm angry at Half Acre for that. I'm just saying that's how I see it.
What I heard is you hate Half Acre.
Yeah, I'm telling Gabriel tonight. I'm texting him.
He's listening.
Here pre-recording.
He gets a free live feed right there.
Yeah. He's listening. He's plugged in right into the board. Mm-hmm. Anywho, we have about 45 seconds, and then we have to at least have a cut that Jamie can use for lumping, and then we can have an official A real close for the real heads.
The
real
post
heads.
the Patreon member conversation.
Someday.
Post
Your 4-minute Patreon episode is a sign off from
Where
the
you can
original.
swear as much as you want.
Exactly.
after hours. Well, guys, I'm going to go back upstairs.
All right.
I'm gonna
Thanks for coming
I'm
down.
going to go check out my temperature, and I really enjoyed being on the show.
All right. Well, thanks. Up. See you, Ed. Up.
Bye, Ed.
Bye.
Oh,
Mike's
wow,
also getting.
that
You're
was
giving.
fast.
Mike ordered a hovercraft on Uber, so he's also.
Oh,
on
Zoller's
as
zipping
well.
around. It's a jewelless hovercraft that I don't know if I've seen
Yeah.
that before.
Well, I guess we'll see you guys next week. All right, we're back. Now we can do a real close. I mean, we have to.
For this new medium of
come on.
are you talking
podcasting.
See, the people out there don't get that we have to do this for a radio show as well, and there's certain timed elements that we have to do. We can't just go
so
whenever.
I'm not taking this Uber ride.
No, you're back.
Was that a joke? Or you just
We're gonna
hailed,
take a couple minutes to actually
45
end the
minutes
show
later
now.
after
you
you
hailed the hovercraft as a way to get me out of here.
It was
Exactly.
a bit, yeah.
But then I
Yeah.
canceled the
You
ride.
canceled the ride.
And now you're stuck with
Now
those,
you're
those
back.
fees. You're
Okay.
trying to get a
a
refund.
hovercraft cancellation fee is
Yeah.
Huge.
At least $10.
Jewelry.
It's huge.
Yeah.
Yeah, got to cover those
It's cost of
jewel
a
costs.
repair job.
It's a lot.
It's true.
Well, I think that
Yeah.
I'm hoping that the independent suppliers and the shops work together in a better way than they had in the past. I think the pandemic may have helped. At the same time, you could argue that a lot of breweries just really focused inwardly, it's siloed, and just kind of like did everything they could to sell these exclusives at their tap room only. Didn't even want to get it out there. Needed to capture that revenue, capture those margins. But I think that now is the time for you to go back into the rest of the universe and sell as much as you can to every single outlet you can.
Right. If there's ever an experience that you should understand, you need to have a more robust business model than just come to my tap room and buy my special releases. It's a
now.
pandemic where you can't have people in your tap room.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
Weren't we like 2 years ago just saying like that was going to be the future of craft beer where everyone's going to sell out of their tap room and out of their small brewery to avoid
mean, that's-
Some people
distribution
said
charges?
that.
But it's like
Some people said that, but
sure,
I never believed
but that's
it.
like
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
saying like the future is the past, right? That's just a brew pub,
Right.
Like
Right.
we
It's
like
just
it's
a
like
brew
saying
pub.
craft beer innovated so hard that now we're making lemonade flavored hard seltzers. Like
And
you
not-
made Mike's Hard Lemonade.
and
You
not
created
every-
the brew pub. Like
not
you're not doing anything new.
But we also focused on those breweries that had those lines and the hype, et cetera, et cetera.
Well, that was
false scarcity, the idea of like there's you couldn't get
There's a very
FOMO.
attractive like model of like, wow, you're capturing so much margin selling such expensive things, but it's like it's not a sustainable thing. And there's only a handful of breweries that can have that type of attention.
Right.
Yeah.
And it might not even be good for those breweries. A lot of those breweries have been in the news recently for not being the best places to work. So
Yeah, exactly. I mean, there's a reason for some of their success is probably through some exploitation of their workers. I don't know.
which is who knows?
Yeah.
What I will say is, to me, all I want is, if I could wish for something, is for people to get up out of their homes and go outside to do things. If you go to a brewery to buy the beer, awesome, cool.
Go anywhere.
You go
Right,
to the
right,
corner store to
right.
buy it. That's cool too.
Go to
just don't just get on an app. Go out
One
and
thing
talk to a
'cause-
person,
because-
please, so that person can be employed.
Those
And-
apps are economically evil too, right? Because
they terrible cuts.
they don't make any money. They're there to be essentially a pest that someone buys them because they've taken enough market share while
Yeah.
losing money to do it. But that also means that they're taking cuts out of the person who's delivering it to you, not the person who made it. It's like it's the worst.
It foments the
all of
precarious
them.
employment.
Yeah, right.
It's all about precarious employment, gig economy. It basically destroys the notion of having a real job. Any
But
kind
then
of
on
like,
top of
and
it,
it's
what Mike is saying is it's so heavily funded that it doesn't have to be an actual money-making
No.
venture. They
Right.
can do it just to undercut everybody else, so
Sure.
it just decays.
yeah, but that's what you do when you play for a monopoly.
I mean, that's what Uber did forever. Their
Yeah.
rides were super cheap. They admitted they were losing money. Now, the last 3 months, all the Uber rides are double the cost now
Yep.
because they have to make money because they
And they're
Right.
paying the drivers less as well.
exactly.
Now.
That's how they make their money.
And also that affects destination neighborhoods.
Right.
Now
Yeah.
you can't get a cheap Uber to Bridgeport.
No,
Yep.
Right.
So now you rely on more local people to come.
And
to
where are
the
the
place.
cabs? Now
And
they're all gone.
there's no cabs.
There's no
no
cabs
cabs.
anymore.
Right.
They're all gone.
So it's
you
almost-
have no choice.
We were stuck
this
in
is
West
also
Loop
like-
last weekend. Couldn't get
Just
out.
like when you make your consumer choices, like the most frictionless or the cheapest thing to do isn't necessarily the thing you should be doing.
No.
Right? It's almost always not the
The
thing you
worst
should
thing
be
to
doing,
do.
and it's gonna end up hurting you in the long run. Right? You need to supporting local isn't nice because it's like nice to like
Because it's good for you in the long run.
It's good for the local economy and you and the people that work at that place.
And you.
Right.
It's good
it's
for
better for you in the long run.
Like, it is good for you because
Right.
you will have a better place to live, better options for your work, for your employment, for your dining, for anything you want to do. You want to go buy, a whatever it is, a widget. I mean, to me, it's still preferable. If you had a widget store next door, or you could buy one on Amazon, I'm guessing you would go next door to look at all of them, talk to somebody, and you know what? Just expand that next door to 5 or 10 minutes away if you're in a city, and think about that, the value of being able to do that.
And this ties into like why everyone thought craft breweries being bought up by larger players is so insidious, because those places' goals are explicitly to have a monopoly. Like, they want to control the whole market for the thing they're trying to sell. And that means putting the other producers out of business. And why do you want to have a monopoly? Because then you can charge whatever you want for the thing because you have no competitors. Obviously, no one's going to get to the point where they have a monopoly. There's antitrust laws and all that. But the closer you get, the worse it is.
You can get a few people dominating it.
And even if you don't have a full monopoly like in the traditional sense, you have enough influence in the places you need to control the prices of things. It just ends up being really bad for the consumer at the end.
Mm-hmm. I mean, maybe it seems nostalgic to want to live in an age where you walked around your neighborhood and were able to experience going to your local brewery or your local tap room or bottle shop or whatever. Bookstore, et cetera. And like these are things that people do yearn for, and these are things that developers and governments and local governments and municipalities try to promote to bring a kind of what they used to call vibrancy to a neighborhood, like across the country in smaller towns, mid-sized cities, et cetera. That development of these neighborhoods was super important to bring some life and economic benefit back to those neighborhoods. The pandemic is just completely eviscerated and changed everything for everyone, everywhere.
Right. And before that, was Walmart going into towns like that, shutting all that stuff down. And it's like, where did all those jobs go? Well, it's like it took slices off that. It has to go up the corporate ladder. It has to go like, I don't know. This is now getting oddly more.
You're sounding more like that.
I think I'm a lot more like you than you.
Yeah.
No, I am.
But the reality is, though, like that is the culture we have to foment and advocate for and amplify, especially now as we emerge from this period where it is easier to order anything. We've been trained to order anything on an app.
And it's unfortunate, like your strongest thing is the strongest vote you have in this is to where you actually go and spend your money. Spending a little bit more money on something because it's made by people you care about or sold by people you believe in or by people that live in your neighborhood, even if you don't believe in them necessarily, is an important thing to do.
Yeah,
absolutely. I think that's probably a good place to stop.
Okay, I'm going to go back upstairs.
Okay, you can go back upstairs. But is there anything you would like to say in closing in addition to what you just said, Edmar?
No, I'm just glad we're back. I can't wait to come back to studio. I'll be back tomorrow. I guess I'll be on the show tomorrow. And I can't wait to see you all the time.
Next week, we've got a very cool show, actually.
I'll be here.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, that's right. So we're going to be doing a fantasy draft. And what's going to get, we believe,
Jungle Boogie, Zombie Dust.
Exactly.
Pilsner, Kel Unfiltered.
Yes.
What's going to be the competition?
Yeah, so he knows, so he's just shouting random things.
I'm very curious.
The idea is going to be it's like a fantasy sports style snake draft, but you're trying to build your best tap list for we haven't quite nailed down, probably 6 draft lines.
Your home
with
system.
Specific. You got to have certain styles on, and you have to have positions. So we're still fleshing it out, but it's going to be
It'll be on the clock.
5 people.
Double
drafting,
Jungle Boogie.
4 or 5 people drafting 6.
Mango Jungle Boogie.
6 draft lines. All right, I like it.
Yeah.
Jungle Boogie Light.
We did that. The ABV guys do the FOBAB draft.
Nice.
Every year.
I
which is
didn't
a lot
know
of fun.
that. I did not know that.
Yeah. So you just pick the breweries, and some you feel pretty good about, and some are it's a long shot.
Yeah,
That's cool.
you got to take some long.
I dig it. So that'll be fun. We're going to have a lot of fun next week.
Be a new thing we haven't done before.
But Mike Z, anything you want to say before we head out?
No, I'm going to echo Ed here. It's great to have this podcast back and be here at the Insiders Roundtable table.
Yes.
Square table? Yeah, it's great.
Yeah,
Insider Square Table.
2 square tables.
How about you, Mike? Anything you would like to say?
Support your local bottle shop and or tap room, but Only if
You
it's
can't
only
see
if
he's
it,
shaking
only
his
if it's
head no.
both,
Okay.
and only if it's in the Avondale neighborhood of Chicago. Otherwise,
Yeah, just you can't order anything from an app from Avondale.
that's right.
It's true.
Avondale, the appless wonder.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you guys so much. Would love to hear from all you guys out there. Remember, we're
Attention.
interested to know about draft rooms versus tap rooms versus bars, stuff like that. Insiders at craftbeertemple.com. We always love to hear from you guys. And we'll see you next week with the fantasy draft. But until then, so long.
Remember, this is what we wanted. Remember, this is what we said. To never be heard, seen from again. Remember, this is what we wanted. Remember, this is what we said.